A tent, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, and stove is the difference between being comfortable and not. Clothing, and more specifically proper clothing, is the difference between surviving and not. What I want to do next is talk about all the different layers that you need to bring with you anytime you go out into the backcountry. That's not just an overnight trip. We're going to start from the outside layer and kind of work our way in. And the very first one is rain-proofing layers. So that is rain jackets, and you can't forget rain pants. I think a lot of people kind of sacrifice rain pants, and trust me, when you're out on a multi-day trip and you're going through some substantial weather, having rain pants, very important. Now, the gold standard is Gore-Tex, but any type of breathable, waterproof layer is what you're looking for. The advantage to this stuff is not only is it going to help protect you against the rain, but it's also going to help protect you against the wind. It's really going to do a good job of preventing any type of heat loss through convection, through wind. Next, we have our midweight. And there's a couple different options here. We have what we call soft shells. Soft shells are designed to kind of work in the rain, but really more of a mist. To be honest with you, they're not great in the rain, but they are good as a midweight. This is a great thin option that can be worn underneath of a raincoat, or perhaps in the snow, this soft shell can act as a bit of a waterproofing layer. But any type of substantial snow, especially really wet snow, this isn't going to be very great. And then we kind of move to are really warm layers as midweights. And there's really kind of three options here. We have down, so nice puffy down. We have a synthetic version of that. So it kind of works like down in the sense that it has nice puffy layers like this down jacket here, but it's not down feathers, it's not goose feathers, it's synthetics in there. We'll come back to that in a moment. And the third option is fleece. Now, fleece is definitely the most affordable option, but the other thing that's great about fleece is that it can get soaking wet and it's gonna work really well. Now, the disadvantage is that fleece does not pack down at all. It's kind of the size that it is. And this is where we get to the advantage of down. Down can be very warm. It puffs up, keeps you very warm, but you can pack it down so that it's very small. And this is what's awesome about down. Disadvantage of down though, is when it gets wet, it stops working at all. And so kind of the middle of those two is something like this. This is kind of like a down jacket in the sense that it's going to puff up to keep you warm, but instead of having goose feathers or down inside of it, they're synthetic. And so this synthetic material acts just like down goose feathers, but if it gets wet, it still will work a little bit to help keep you warm. It's a really good option. And on the line of staying warm, just like your mother always said, put on a toque. Toque's gonna be really important. It doesn't matter what time of year it is, you should always have a toque with you. This is a great way of staying warm at night too when you're in your sleeping bag. And then the next thing is our bottom layers, and we have a couple of options there as well. The most important thing when it comes to clothing in the outdoors is to stay away from cotton. We kind of say cotton kills. Now, there are certain exceptions to that. If you're out on a really nice day, it's quite hot, cotton does a really good job of keeping you cool. But on cold days or in the winter or at night, that can be a real problem. So if you're gonna wear cotton layers during the day, you need to have a backup for the evening. And that's true for on a day hike or an overnight trip. Now there's kind of two materials that you wanna look to. One is kind of a poly layer, some sort of a synthetic layer. The other one is wool, and the common one now is merino. This is a plastic essentially. This is a natural fiber. Some people will kind of weigh those as benefits and bonuses, but either or is gonna work. Wool, a lot more expensive. Synthetic lasts a lot longer and a lot cheaper. One of the advantages that people kind of tout as what wool is that it's biodegradable, but essentially it biodegrades as you wear it. It kind of gets thin and wears out over time. This particular synthetic layer I've had for 15 years. It hasn't changed. It is what it is. It doesn't really go away. It's a chunk of plastic. Just like how we know plastic doesn't really biodegrade, same thing with this shirt. Now, when it comes to base layers, there's kind of two versions of base layers. I want something that I'm gonna have for when I'm sleeping in my tent. So that's like long johns and kind of a base layer top. And then I'm gonna want layers that I'm gonna wear out during the day. So that's going to be kind of synthetic pants or shorts, and then some sort of a hiking shirt that you can wear. And the last thing that we recommend for clothing is gloves. Now, this is more important for two reasons. If you're the type of person that gets cold fingers, definitely gloves are going to be advantageous. The other one too is in certain times of the year. Obviously in July and August, gloves might not be as important, but in those colder months, it definitely is. Now, the problem with gloves is that they can get wet very quickly. And so I'm usually trying to save my gloves and keep them dry. And the big place that I wear them is inside my tent when I'm sleeping at night. That might be the situation where I want to have gloves. I don't want to expose my gloves to too many elements and get them wet. So that's what we're dealing with when it comes to clothing. Now, the most important takeaway from this is to always check the label and make sure that there's no cotton. So when we talk about cotton, we mean 50% cotton, 25% cotton, or 10% cotton. We don't want any cotton being in any of our layers. So make sure you check those labels and make sure you read them and see what the types of materials are that you're dealing with.